Hey guys, I am attorney Michael Ehline, and as most of you know, I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas, and I'm covering the Neely story. I was right in the middle of a meeting and I got the breaking news, and I wanted to cover this because I'm also an inactive Marine, and I'm hey Chili over at Delete Laws. He's going to break in. Good seeing you, bro. This is a teachable moment, maybe not for the reasons many of you think. I do believe, based upon the witness testimony and the victims on the train, that Neely was Jordan Neely, the man who passed away. He's a multiple convicted violent person. He'd been arrested at least 42 times for things like larceny, theft, and unprovoked assaults on women in the subway between 2019 and 2021. He had an outstanding warrant for punching a woman and breaking her face. And he was known to struggle with homelessness and drugs and all that. And I feel bad about him for that. But I also feel bad for the terrified subway passengers. Various accounts of the subway passengers included that they were terrified by him. One woman tried to hide her baby behind a stroller because she was in fear for her life. They said that he was frightening and threatening, and he was screaming about being hungry and thirsty and not afraid of jail. He made statements like, "I'm ready to die," terrifying the people on the subway train. And so this behavior led to the passengers feeling threatened, some moving away, shielding themselves and their children, and but not all the passengers said that they felt personally threatened by him. So that's just to give you a background, because you won't hear that from the for-profit news media. Automatically, since he's not the right skin color, it's automatically they make it like it's racism, and that's how they want to paint it. But they were all terrified of this guy, and it's a real problem. So this isn't going to be a super duper long. Good seeing you guys. This isn't going to be a super duper long show. I'm working today, but just because of my background and knowing about what's going on with Daniel and being someone who's going to give you the whole story and not just the BS for-profit news story, I'm going to share a little bit of time with you out of my day, because I'm not going to have an opportunity to go live tonight. But Penny was a good dude, like Chili says. Says he was a good dude. He shouldn't have killed the dude, but that dude was out of control. We got to step in when we see injustice. Penny should have stopped in. Then Penny should have been helped. Yeah, somebody should have helped Penny. Penny is also he's a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I don't know if he did combat. He probably did. Probably has PTSD. Probably a little messed up. And he was just doing his job the way he was trained to protect people. Unfortunately, in the Marine Corps, they don't really teach a whole lot about de-escalation, right? So he had the guy in a choke and just held on to a little bit too long. Ultimately, the trial judge dismissed the first charge of, I think it was manslaughter, and because the jury couldn't return a verdict, and it would have just been perpetual trials. The case should have never been filed. It's obvious that he was acting in defense of others, but because BLM and a lot of the other leftist Marxist organizations in New York wanted it to get filed, it got filed. And so I'm going to just show you really quick the video of the not guilty verdict. And by the way, when this guy was going to trial, he had people, spitting on him, throwing stuff at him, saying guilty, guilty, give him the rope. I mean, it was just like something out of like the age of Robespierre, right? And these are the people who supposedly support democracy, right? Which is mob rules. And now you're starting to understand why I keep telling you we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic where the rights of the individual are supreme, not the rights of the mob. But let's just go ahead and play this video, and then I'll get into what happened and why this is a teachable moment for my audience at Team MPE.
Decision, but this one, they were unanimous, not guilty. The jury deliberating for more than 24 hours across 5 days before finally reaching this verdict. Daniel Penny found not guilty on all counts. On Friday, the judge overseeing dismissed the more severe charge of second-degree manslaughter, which carried a 15-year maximum sentence. After the jury was unable unable to reach that unanimous verdict on that count. Now, a jury of 12 New Yorkers been locked down in that courtroom, like we said, for 5 days. It was 24 hours of deliberations.
I heard about
trying to get to that first count. Once the judge dismissed that first count, they went to the second count, and that's when they finally got this decision where he was found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. And that was shortly after they started deliberating this morning. They came in just after 10 a.m. this morning. They were inside for a little over an hour. There was some back and forth between the defense and the judge. When the defense came out, they came up to the judge and said, there's been protesters. And with so many windows open in the courtroom, we're told from our reporter, Michelle Ross, who's been inside, that there are so many windows open in that courtroom because of how hot it is in that building, that they could hear the protesters potentially from down in the street. The judge argued, well, there was protests on both sides. You had Jordan Neely protesters and you had Daniel Penny protesters. So both of them have been at each other. The defense was arguing that the Neely protesters were louder and the jury could potentially hear that, and that's why they would need to possibly switch rooms. That didn't get to that point because the jury found him not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. You know, at the request of prosecutors on Friday, the judge dismissed that second-degree manslaughter count. That was the big one. That carried a maximum of 15 years. This second count carried 4 years. There was no minimum in either of these counts. This directed the jury to turn to that lesser charge. What that means is now you're free to consider count 2. Now, whether or not that makes any difference or not, we'll see. But what we're going to do is wait for Michelle Ross because she's coming here. Prosecutors allege that Penny killed Neely. We'll go back to what this case is. A 30-year-old homeless man who had previously been a Michael Jackson impersonator when he placed him in a 6-minute-long chokehold on a subway car last year, including for 51 seconds after his body went limp. Now, Assistant District Attorney...
Notice how they ignore the criminal history of this guy and that he terrified women, that he punched a woman in the face and broke her face in, and that he was wanted on a warrant for that, 41 prior counts. I mean, the news media is so biased and ridiculous. That's why I decided I would do this, because it's just all left-wing garbage. They never present both sides of the story. It's just all for-profit media nonsense.
Attorneys have argued that Penny knew his actions could kill Neely, but continued to hold him in a chokehold for what they said was way too long, and they did not recognize his humanity. The medical examiner concluded
Thanks,
that
James.
the chokehold did kill Neely. The defense arguing that Neely died from a genetic condition, they say, and that the synthetic marijuana found in his system. The jury saying they did not believe that. The defense attorney...
Okay, so this is like a really super long video, and like I said, guys, I took a break. I'm actually took a break from a meeting that I have to get back into. But what I wanted to do is make this into a teachable moment, just so you understand. So there was a more serious charge. In my opinion, the charges should have never been brought. Ridiculous case. The guy was acting in defense of others. It's another example of law enforcement or peace officers not doing their job, prosecutors letting violent felons out to do whatever the hell they want, and then the public being terrified. And fortunately for them, they had an inactive United States Marine who was brave enough to try and stop this guy, because nobody ever wanted to do anything to stop him, and people were terrified of him. So he acted in defense of others. And the media and BLM's trying to make it a race thing. And I just totally disagree with that. You know, we're all God's children. In the Marine Corps, there's a lot of black people. We don't have any issues with that. It's all about serving your fellow man and serving your brother beside you. And that's just the way he was trained. And he sprung into action because we run to the sound of the gunfire. And so that's my take on it. You can have your point of view as well. Now, and then let me see here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my friend Brett Pike's take on it. Even though he's not a lawyer, I mean, I'm going to I'm going to approve this message from my buddy Brett.
The video recording of Daniel Penny's police interrogation has been released to the public, and it appears that Penny was not made aware of Jordan Neely's death at the time of the interrogation. In fact, that was confirmed by the interviewing detectives, who approached Penny as friends during the interview, making small talk and bonding over also being a Marine. But in reality, they were actually gathering evidence to try to put Penny away for the rest of his life. And this is why it's so important that parents not only teach their children their rights, but how to interact with authorities. Because while I'm not a lawyer and I don't give legal advice, I personally would never speak to police without an attorney present. And I bet now Penny wishes he studied this subject as a kid, because now Penny is facing decades in prison for defending women and children from a bad man on a train, a man with dozens of previous arrests for theft and the assault of 3 women, who was being aggressive and making threats. And even the New York Times admits that people being pushed in front of trains has been a problem in New York City. And this is why I teach real US civics, because yes, our kids need to know about the branches of government, how the government functions as a system, but they should also know how the court system works, what their rights are, and how to defend them. And they should be armed with the tools to protect themselves in life. Check out my private homeschool community and my books on the First Amendment, the right to bear arms, fake news, healthy eating, and how the food system was corrupted, the Fed, and so much more. ClassicalLearner.com.
So that's actually a pretty good friend of mine, Brett Pike, and I think his brother is also a lawyer, and he's one of the guys that got me into building parallel systems, and that's why I think that we all need to stop participating in the BlackRock economy, stop shopping at Target, stop taking your kids to a Marxist-run education system, and homeschool your kids. Make sure you teach them about the Bill of Rights, natural law, and the Constitution, and the fact that this country was born in a revolution based upon the British trying to seize our guns and our powder houses where the gunpowder was stored. And once you understand that, you'll understand that the rights of the individual always mattered more to our founding fathers, not the rights of the mob. Democracy has never been mentioned in any of our founding documents because we were founded as a republic where the rights of the individual are more important than the rights of the mob. When you have a democracy, once you have 51% control, that 51% can destroy the rights of the other 49. That is a true, pure democracy. The word democracy didn't even start being used till much, much later in this country by people who wanted to subvert us into a democracy, which we are not, in which we should not be. Benjamin Franklin said that a democracy is when 2 wolves and a sheep show up for lunch and decide what's on the menu. In a republic, 2 wolves and a well-armed sheep shows up to contest the vote. And that's the difference. And all of our founding fathers universally condemned democracy. So when I hear people like the academics, the Harvard, the Columbia saying, "Oh, it's really a democratic republic, or democratic constitutional democracy," no, it's not. That we're not England. Don't listen to the banksters and the corrupt academics and government-run news. That's the rights of the individual are what matter. And in this case, we have an unalienable right under the Constitution to defend others, not under the Constitution, protected by the Constitution to defend others. And Daniel Penny was acting in defense of others, and that was just decided by the jury. And had Daniel Penny not opened his mouth and engaged in small talk in the investigation against him by police, he would have never been arrested. What they did is they got enough statements from him to justify an arrest and charges. You should never, ever, ever talk to police, even when they pull you over and ask you simple questions like, where are you headed to? Where are you from? They're at that point building an investigation against you to try and throw you in jail, take away your money, put you in torture cuffs, throw you in a dungeon. Everything that Delete Laws says on his channel, that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, invoke your Fifth Amendment like BZ is saying and Delete Laws is saying. And by the way, guys, thanks for joining me, BZ. Thanks for joining me, Delete Laws, Chili de Castro. Never run your mouth, says James Forbes. And again, guys, this is going to be like a super, super short live. At the very beginning, I didn't have my mic on for a few seconds. Forgive me. This has been a rough morning. I'm fried. But because Marines are a brotherhood, so I'll just give you the speech again. You join the Navy, you join the Army, you join the Air Force, you join the Coast Guard, you join the Space Force, but you become a United States Marine. And so we are a true brotherhood. Whether you just made it out of boot camp or whether you've been in for 30 years, Marines have a very special relationship. We're more akin to the French Foreign Legion. We're more akin to the unit, to the Corps, than we are to anything else. We serve each other as brothers. I always know wherever I go, if I'm broke or whatever, I'll always have a couch to sleep on if I meet a fellow Marine. And that's just the way we are. Totally different than the other branches. You know, in the Army, you might have units that are like that, like the Rangers, right? Like Rangers, you know, if you know your fellow Ranger, you're probably going to let the guy stay with you. But as a general rule, it's just not the same. So good seeing you, Jody Shiloh. Good seeing you, Life Under the Microscope. Thanks for supporting me, brother. I did get your book out to you. I have an ebook about how to become a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. A lot of people are getting them, and I sent yours out. Thank you again for your support. I am working on some stuff to get merch out, like, you know, cups and shirts and all that. But guys, I have a day job. This is just one of those situations where, you know, I saw the breaking news and I wanted to cover it for all my Marine brothers at the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club who have been just really, really watching the show. And for all my friends who have fled New York. Remember, people are fleeing New York since the woke prosecutors took over, and they're trying to do political persecutions against people they disagree with politically while they let criminals and scumbags and rapists out of jail. And so a lot of people are leaving New York because of that. The subway system is a very dangerous place. And people are applauding guys like Penny for standing up for the women and children who are being attacked and assaulted, thrown onto the train tracks by scumbags like this Neely character. Now, the case isn't over. Neely's family is, of course, going to sue Penny for wrongful death. I don't believe that dog is going to hunt. I think that case will go nowhere. Number one, Penny doesn't have any money. The guy's a broke dick Marine. And again, I think he probably has PTSD from serving in the Corps. Even if you didn't go to combat, if you were in the Corps, you probably have PTSD. It's like being in a prison, like a dog on a chain, but you get to have a rifle with you. But other than that, there's not much difference. So at least that's what me and a lot of my friends think. You hate it when you get out, but then after a couple of years, you realize that it was the best place for you because of the brotherhood and the friends that you made. But when you're out, you still have those relationships. So give me a bunch of ones for Daniel Penny and getting his justice. And hopefully you guys understand now, you never, ever, ever give statements to the police. They are not your friend, and they will do anything they can to try to get a conviction against you, put you in torture cuffs, take you to the dungeon, and take your money. That's how they get promoted. That's how they get recognition within their departments. Municipal corporations are designed to raise revenue, not to protect people. The police have no duty to protect individuals. The only time they have a duty to protect anyone is if they assumed a duty, like if you're in custody. And even then, once you're in general population, they have no duty to protect you. So it's very, very rare. In fact, the only people that really stayed safe during the Rodney King riots were the well-armed Korean shopkeepers. And we know with the Roberti Bruce law that the Democrat-run state of California passed, most of the weapons those Korean shopkeepers had to protect their shops and families are now illegal. So you can't even, have those same types of weapons to protect yourself in California, which is another reason why people are fleeing California in droves. I don't know if you guys notice what's going on in California, but it's just a tragedy. Criminals are given the run of the roost. Law-abiding citizens are now going to be charged, 30 cents a mile to drive their cars? And you see like over 500,000 people fleeing every year, maybe more. We're not totally sure. You can't get insurance in your homes anymore. I mean, the woke mob has taken over the state. So be very, very careful, guys, out there. Try to live in a constitutional carry state, because as the government floods your country with illegal aliens from jails like Venezuela, hardened criminals, we have no idea who they are, you're going to have less and less ability to protect yourself if you're in a state like California or New York. In this case is a prime example of what's been happening out there. So, April Rain, good seeing you. Yes, thank you. SW Observer. Yes, good day, my friend from Sweden. Jag talar inte svenska. And that means I don't speak Swedish, guys. I learned that from my grandma. I'm Swedish, Norwegian, a little bit of German and Scottish, but mostly Swedish on my father's side. But pure Viking and pure individual rights, pro-freedom. Probably the Scottish part of me took over there. But yeah, thanks, James. Thanks, Life Under. And then go ahead and check out BZ Watchdog's channel as well after my show if you want. And, support Team MPE and all of our friends. I've got to get back to work. But again, learn about self-defense and defense of others. And if you do defend someone, make sure that you don't give statements to the police unless you have an attorney present. In other words, you never will, because your attorney's never going to let you give a statement. But that's right. Lucid says rights, freedom, liberty, and holding everyone accountable. And that's right. And the leftist Marxist news media that basically tries to destroy anyone who believes in the Second Amendment, who believes in defending their families against violent criminals if they're the wrong color, for example. That's just ridiculous. We need to become a colorblind society like what Martin Luther King Jr. wanted. We need to form parallel systems where we do business with one another and we boycott people like CNN, PMSNBC, BlackRock, Target, and all these people that hate us and hate our way of life and hate our founding fathers, and start supporting one another. And you can start doing that by going over to BZ Watchdog's channel and supporting him. Group 2FA app, thank you for supporting my channel as well. And before I go, I'll give myself a plug since I'm not going to be able to go live tonight. But for all of you who want to learn more about how to become a lawyer and protect yourselves, who may not have the money to afford law school and who don't want to be brainwashed by some Marxist professor, you can pick up a copy of my book. It's an ebook that I sell, not this softcover, for my journey to becoming a practicing lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. And this ebook you can purchase by going to my YouTube channel, and you click on the More button there and open up my profile. And for $19.95, you can get a copy of my ebook, even if you don't want to read it yourself. If you have someone in your family who's poor, single mom who wants to become a lawyer, I talk about my journey, how I did it on the California Law Study Program. And then later I became a member of, I got barred into Texas. So I practice law in Texas and California, and I do personal injury law. That's my primary type of case. So police shootings, wrongful death claims, like the case that Neely's family is bringing against Penny, but I would never take a case like that because I think it would be a joke. I mean, it's obvious that this guy was a psychopath and that Penny was doing his best to defend those other people on the train. He had no skin in the game other than trying to defend those women and children, and that's what he was trained to do. Oh my gosh, April Rain, thank you so much for the super sticker. I normally don't do like live chats on breaking news, but because Penny is a fellow Marine, and I know the news media has done everything they could to assassinate him just because he's white, I felt obligated to get on here and give some defense to someone who's very defendable. And so I really appreciate that, April. It really means a lot to me that you're supporting my channel and by extension, supporting the American people. Not many people understand that America is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And our founding fathers hated democracy. They despised it. It's not mentioned in any of our founding documents. But we know the banksters want us to be a democracy because they can manipulate for-profit media, and all they need is 51%, and you'll get what you have in places like New York and California, where the mob is ruling and where people are fleeing who love their families, love their rights of self-defense. They're leaving, like my family, because we don't want our children brainwashed by the Marxist-run education systems in those states. So anyways, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Give me a bunch of ones for Daniel Penny. Later, I will be providing a link to the Daniel Penny Civil Personal Injury Defense Fund. I'm just trying to get a hold of him. I know that he's been in jail this whole time, so he's probably going through a lot. But definitely, if anybody on Team MPE wants to help support him in the civil lawsuit claim and help him, with trusts and things like that, so he can protect what little assets that he has. He probably doesn't have anything. And hopefully we get a summary judgment in that case. I'm trying to reach out to his civil defense attorney in New York and trying to make arrangements to help them push that case forward. So, because it's going to cost a lot of money to defend a civil lawsuit, right? The civil defense attorneys don't work on a contingency like me as a plaintiff. I don't get paid unless I win your case. But because he's a Marine and because I know the facts of the case, and now you know a lot more than you did from years of nonsense from the press, now we'll be able to move forward and do what's right for the country. Well, that's the thing, Spidey Flick. That's what the press was doing. The press has been playing the race card. You're right. And I just think that's ridiculous. I wouldn't care if he was green or orange. If you're going to defend my wife and kids while they're on a subway, I'm going to do my best to support you. It's ridiculous that he would have been charged. But really should give me a bunch of ones if you agree that it's the police and the New York government who should be in prison for this, for allowing people like that to even be on the subway, probably all the way back to Ronald Reagan. Maybe he should be in prison while he's wherever he is, for destroying our public system of mental health. I mean, as much as I liked Ronnie, what a terrible thing that was to destroy our mental health institutions in the way that was done. Having people like that out on the street is a dangerous thing. It's a time bomb. And that's what happened to those people. And it's just a terrible, terrible thing. And it makes me really, really sad. No, actually, Spidey Flick, I didn't play the race card. I was simply saying that the press is claiming that because he's white, that means that he's a racist. And so, Spidey Flick, you can go F yourself. But everybody else, I love you guys. Semper Fi, do or die. Make sure to like and subscribe. And, make sure to share this with all your friends. And I love you guys. And I hope to see you soon. Okay, guys? Take care. Bye.